This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now.
He's not lying. Happy Friday and welcome to Open Line, everybody. Friday the 13th, mind you, and I'll just leave that there. Brian Callahan hosting the show all this week, and David Williams in the producer's chair, figuratively and literally, on wheels back there. I'll just catch him every now and then in my peripheral vision, rolling, whizzing back and forth behind the glass like a whirling dervish, we used to say back in the day. Anyway, that's probably just the first of many tangents I may go off on here this Friday. Right to the numbers, 709-273-5211 in the St. John's metro area. Beyond the overpass, we also used to say, figuratively these days, it's 1-888-590-VOCM 8626. And, of course, take your emails at openline@vocm.com. First off, I want to repeat what we heard there, the traffic alert right off the top of the news. This is 1 kilometer west of the Argentia Access Road on the TCH. Apparently a two-vehicle collision, hoping for the best there, but it does not look good. Road is shut down apparently in both directions right now, so careful approaching, going through there. In fact, maybe unable to get through it all right now. Patience, and of course, watch out for all the first responders and just be uber aware. Okay, quick note, sports off the top as per usual. Dave, can we just stick with sports today? Is that okay with you? Let's just make it a sports call-in show. That's it. Fridays will be a sports... No. I may have to go over your head on that one, and I doubt it'll get anywhere. Or maybe I'll just not ask for permission and seek forgiveness later on. I know you're well-versed in sports, Dave. Make it a Friday treat like we did at St. Bon's. You get to wear jeans and cool sweaters instead of gray cords and a shirt and tie on a Friday. There'd be no school in the afternoon because you had hockey at the Forum, which then later burned down. But that's another story and another tangent. So Canada now at 7 medals, I believe, 3 silver and 4 bronze, so still seeking our first gold of these games. Came about as close as you can yesterday with Mikhail Kingsbury basically tied for first, but apparently his turns weren't as nice as the other guy, so we settled for silver. Still, with that medal, Kingsbury now has 4 Olympic medals, 3 silver and 1 gold, and that makes him the first freestyle skier in history to have 4. So we'll take that. And let's see, if I had one word to sum up Team Canada's performance yesterday in men's hockey, that word would be dominant. Crosby to McDavid to McKinnon, or any combination thereof, but that just sounds great, doesn't it? We'll do just fine, thank you. So, as so often happens, takes our boys a little while to get out of the gate, get going, find a game rhythm, if you will. But, until then, more often than not, we'll just lean on our goalie to hold the fort. And Jordan Binnington did just that. So, there were doubters with his selection as a starting keeper, but given recent struggles, of course, in St. Louis. But he looked great yesterday. Bailed us out early, of course. You look at the defensive core in front of him, though, clearing out the crease and cleaning up all those nasty rebounds. But no, it was nothing short of dominant. 5-0 shutout over Czechia. All lines chipping in, and of course enforcer Connor McDavid. I say that tongue-in-cheek. Setting the physical tone early. He also had 3 assists. What a player. So that's now 11 straight wins. The last 3 of them shutouts with NHL players at the Olympics. Incredible. Or should I say dominant. Weird scene at the end, though. I don't know if you saw this, but the Canadian players had to stay on the ice for about 10, almost 15 minutes, just hanging out by their own bench. Afterward, told they had to wait for the Czechs to run the media gauntlet, where the players stop for interviews after they come off the ice. Apparently only one team can go through at a time. Anyway, as Coach John Cooper explained afterwards, he didn't want to wait until after the players all split up and did their interviews and all that sort of thing. He wanted to relay his important post-game message to his players right there in the moment on the ice. Totally get it. So he gathered them all together, did it right there. It wasn't mic'd for the broadcast, but it was televised, just watching them all as if, they were back alone in the dressing room, and the eyes of every single one of them fixed on Cooper as he yelled over the music and all the other noise. Wild stuff. Love Cooper. Not sure if you saw him at the last outdoor game. Had kind of a Tony Montana thing going on. Apparently to match the Cuban theme of that game in Tampa. It looked great. Anyway, another tangent. And the women's team also blanked their opponents by the same 5-0 score yesterday. Was close for a while until they too said enough of this over Finland, and the rest was history there. They get Germany in the quarters on Saturday, while the men should handle Switzerland later today, just after 4:30 hour Newfoundland time. Half-hour difference in some parts of Labrador. Should never say that, of course, that they should win. They're all good clubs, more than capable of pulling upsets. It was 2-1 for a while yesterday in the U.S.-Latvia game before the Americans put that one away. And, of course, defending gold medalist Finland have already been upset by Slovakia. So certainly can't take anything for granted there. Another win for Canada's men's curling team early today already. Brad Jacobs foursome. They beat the U.S. 6-3 this morning. They look to go 3-0 later today when they take on Sweden. That'll be a good one. And Rachel Homan and her Ottawa-based team looking to stay perfect as they play the U.S. as well today. And, of course, Ukrainian skeleton racer. I don't know if you're following this, but Vladislav Hiraskevich, the Ukrainian flag bearer as well, actually, insisted on wearing a helmet, of course, with the images of people killed, soldiers, children killed in the war back home in his homeland. It was just too meaningful for him. He was always going to wear it. It was always about the principle of it. But just before he was about to race, he was disqualified for wearing the helmet. IOC, the official, the woman who had to announce it and everything, practically in tears over it, announcing it. He was a legitimate medal contender and Ukraine's flag bearer, as I mentioned, but the IOC it's a tough one. It's on the surface, it's like, oh, you got to be kidding. But the IOC explained it well and have a good point. Like, where would it end? And do we really want to open that can of worms and inject that kind of dynamic into the Olympic Games when it really should just remain about the competitions, the sports, as the great Jim McKay announced, the thrill of victory in the agony of defeat. But your thoughts. And quick mention, NL Regiment on a 5-game winning streak now. Won again against the Sea Dogs last night. They're now off for a week. And if you're watching the Olympics, that's fine. Just keep her on mute. You can crank up the open line, the best of both worlds. All right, so the PM and other federal party leaders will travel to Tumbler Ridge today, BC, for a public vigil tonight in the wake of the shooting there on Tuesday. And the shock there is now slowly turning to reality and the just incredible flood of grief. I've heard some of the parents of the children who were killed. They're speaking about them and their loss. I don't know how they're doing it. I can't even, the moment I try to relate to, I just can't do it. I can't go there. And I know this is all very hard for some to keep hearing about, but it's also very important to hear and try, as futile as it may be, to gain some kind of insight or understanding as to how these things happen, how it continues to happen with seemingly greater frequency. So that maybe it can make us a little more aware, more on top of mind, so to speak, about these issues, and any potential to, for lack of a better phrase, nip something in the bud maybe. We know there were more than a few red flags, warning signs in the Tumbler Ridge shooting, not the least of which being the multiple guns that were seized from the shooter's home, which were later returned by police. They haven't said yet if any of those guns were used in the shooting. We do know the shooter had a modified handgun and a long gun, they've called it at first, but we've since learned that long gun was actually not a rifle or a shotgun. It was actually some kind of semi-automatic firearm, and in the words of the RCMP, quote, capable of firing multiple rounds. And all of the victims have now been identified publicly, of course, and the photos and stories of their short lives, 12 and 13 years old, it's just really very hard to see. Or like the little girl still fighting for her life in hospital, just in such a terrible state, bruised, all hooked up to every kind of machine. We're told there has been some improvement in her condition, and we can only pray that she somehow can come out of this to provide some kind of beacon of light, in an otherwise horrible, just absolutely terrible tragedy. And, of course, there's also one other victim still listed in critical. So, of course, all flags are down at half-mast across this province, municipalities, the country, the world. Flags at Confederation Building will stay down until, I believe, at half-mast until the 17th, February 17th, next Tuesday. And I see now where Alberta is the first out of the gate to announce that they're going to hold or have a full review of their security and protocols at schools in that province in the wake of the shooting. Should we do that here? Your thoughts. Mentioned yesterday, of course, that this weekend does mark the 44th anniversary of the Ocean Ranger tragedy, the night of the 14th into the morning of the 15th. For me, it's just the absolute cruelest irony ever inflicted upon our province. That, for me, I mean, I lived through it. I was a teenager at the time. And never will it leave you, especially on Valentine's Day. It's just, all the words have been said. So 2 ceremonies yesterday, of course, at the Basilica, and put off by Gonzaga students, of course, which were really hard hit by it. And the other wreath laying at Confederation Building. Also still very moving, to see kids, teenagers talking about the Ocean Ranger at the Basilica during the service each year, taking, the altar to talk about this. So important to keep it in our minds. And you do that by educating our youth so they can continue to carry that torch, those thoughts, those memories, those feelings for those who were lost. And, of course, also on February 15th, 1 year ago, the MS3, Baltic 3, ran aground. The MSC Baltic 3 ran aground at Cedar Cove, near Lark Harbour on the west coast. They've been removing the cargo and the fuel, and it looks like they got most of it, thankfully, but before she comes apart at the seams, and by the looks of it, that might not be far off. That could be any day. The stern of her is almost in the water now, and there's a crack right in the middle of the hull, so that could snap any day. It's kind of a weird good news, bad news story for Lark Harbour. You think of all the business that has come from the supplies and the work being done there on that ship. Good thing. But that's short term, obviously. The greater, the greater threat is that's all outweighed by the long-term risks of pollution, impact on fisheries in the area if that thing breaks into pieces. So looks like they're down to the salvage stage now, so keeping an eye on that. And so there's a ton of other topics we can talk about here today, but we have callers, and as I've said before, as long as there's callers in the queue, I'm going to shut up out of it. For lack of better terms. So, Dave, take first break. Come back with our first caller. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the program. Let's get her going on line number 2. Pam Parsons, the Liberal MHA for Harbour Grace, Portgrave. You're on the air.
Good morning, Brian, and I appreciate you guys taking my call off the top because in celebration of Education and Teacher Appreciation Week, I'm actually going on my way to Harbour Grace now at the Danny Cleary Centre to play some hockey with the students and teachers. So thank you for taking my call. But I want to call in to talk about the recent meeting held by the Joint Council of Conception Bay North, and hats off to the RCMP. A number of their colleagues, including Chief Cahill, were out and attended and met with all the community leaders in the Joint Council. Myself and my MHA colleagues as well, Minister Ottenheimer and MHA Balsam were also present, as I said, with the community leaders across Conception Bay North. And ultimately what we're hearing that police are hearing, they're responding, they know the needs in this region in particular. As we know, statistics show that Metro and Happy Valley Goose Bay have highest rates of crimes, but we're very close in that race, unfortunately, out here in Conception Bay North. But that said, to hear news that the model is moving towards a 24-hour policing is certainly welcomed. We have 2 RCMP detachments here in my district in Bay Roberts as well as Harbour Grace. And to see that, that they certainly recognize that need and that we're going to be working toward that is certainly good news, of course, for residents. And Brian, as you know, just last year, of course, we invested, our administration invested $24 million into justice and public safety, which includes judiciary, RNC, as well as supports for the RCMP. But over the past 5 years, we have invested $40 million into the justice system, includes resources for the RCMP. And as we know, we're working hand in hand with our federal counterparts, because ultimately the RCMP are a federal jurisdiction. So again, it's going to take everybody working together. But to see that that certainly being heard is certainly a move in the right direction. So I want to thank the RCMP for the work that they do, as well as the RNC and all law enforcement. And Brian, also a very important topic that was talked about bringing back the presentations that police, you probably would remember them, and many probably would. I remember when I was in school, the presentations that when the RCMP would come in and they talk about, drug awareness and different things. I mean, those things stay with you. I mean, I can remember those presentations when I was in school. I think they're effective. Currently, they're not happening, but there is a need for them to come back. They've proven to be beneficial in getting to our young people, because as we know, our young people are the future, and getting the message and the education to our young people in early stages obviously proves to be beneficial. So this is good news. So again, I wanted to talk about that. And again, I'm just going to try to be quick because I know you have other callers.
Yeah, I will just mention on the policing and the crime front. Of course, the irony of that is, in about 10 minutes or so, a gentleman, Justin King, is due in Harbour Grace Provincial Court, where I understand there's a gathering of a lot of residents from the CBN area who've been frustrated by what they have said has been a lack of, shall we say, investigation or arrests or whatever you want to call it regarding all the break-ins in the area last summer and last year. And so that gentleman is appearing in court today. I don't think much will be happening. I think it's just another status appearing where they'll talk about the disclosure. But that's happening as we speak. So I just wanted to mention that.
Absolutely. And you know what? Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, they will take the measures to do what is necessary. You know, we're known to be a people who voice our concerns. And again, people have obviously they've taken times out of their day to plan and coordinate these efforts, and they're there to voice their concerns. And again, a beauty of our democracy. So that's good, and I applaud them. And again, everybody deserves to go home at night and to have peace of mind, to knowing that you're safe in your own home, but also, you know, walking our communities, walking the streets. I mean, we all deserve that. And one thing, although the crime rate has certainly changed, you know, in their modern times, but RCMP have also confirmed in that meeting just the other day that Newfoundland and Labrador still remains to be among the safest jurisdictions in Canada. So that certainly is welcome news. But again, we can always improve. There's always work to be done. There's good work has been done in the past. I'm glad to see that commitment seems to be there as well with this new administration. But that said, we will wait and see. PCs have not presented a budget yet, so we will see exactly what will be in the budget for justice and public safety. But before I conclude my call here today, I also want to talk about there's the feedback that I'm receiving from my constituents here in Harbour Grace, Portagrave, about the concerns for the political staffer, who happens to be obviously he's a doctor as well, but the amount being paid $275,000, so upwards almost $500,000 for 28 hours a week. But the big thing is that this money is coming from the MCP budget. And Brian, you and I know. You know, we're fortunate to have free health care here in Canada, but we know that money comes from the MCP budget here for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. So very concerning. I'm getting the feedback. People are not happy about this, but it's very disheartening to see, because as we know, Brian, and you would well know, you know, working in your industry, there are budgets for political staff. Every premier across Canada has a budget for political staffers, political advisors. But to see the premier dipping into the MCP budget, and it's a hefty salary for 28 hours a week, it's very disheartening, and I'm sad to see them get off on this foot.
There's still precious little information. There's still a lot more to that. On that bone there that I want to get to, and not a lot of time this morning, but look, it doesn't hurt to have an advisor, a well, versed advisor in the Premier's office. How they went about it in the healthcare realm, after losing Pat Parfrey and after losing Dr. Fury, which arguably had their finger on the pulse of this province in the healthcare system, maybe I can see they might need an advisor for it, but the way it's gone about, the communication on it, and the lack of real information. There's a standard news release from it, but it really doesn't get into the bones of how this works money-wise, whether or not it's cheaper to do it with MCP. I mean, we know the whole mantra of this government is to find efficiencies wherever they can. So is it cheaper to do it this way? I don't know. I don't know if you know. The fact that it's coming from the MCP sounds bad because we all rely on MCP as individuals. But is that the worst?
Well, as we know, Brian, as we know, we've heard this for years and years. Healthcare got where it is over time. But what I hear as an MHA and from my constituents, not just in my district, but province-wide, our healthcare is on critical condition as it is. But to dip into an MCP pot, again, every premier, every minister, well, across our jurisdictions here in the country, there are allocated appropriate budgets for political staff. But dipping into the MCP, the concern I'm hearing, people are very concerned and disheartened and disappointed to see this. So, Mike, these questions,
though, Pam,
I'm not...
I just wonder, though, is it more efficient to do it that way? What's wrong with that?
Well, again, those are questions.
Well, right.
For the
So
new
how do we
administration,
criticize it?
For the health minister.
Exactly.
Again, like maybe
So,
did Health Minister Evans, was she aware of this? Did she approve it?
Right.
But again, these are all questions, and I really think that the Premier or the appropriate minister should come on and give us the details
Agreed.
about it and to see.
Agreed. So I would suggest,
I
would suggest holding our fire until we have answers to those questions. It's fine to get out there and pontificate and bitch and complain about these things, and I'm not criticizing you for that. It's your role. But we still don't know if this is, and that's a problem for the Premier's office. A more clear explanation of how the money is funneled, how it can be done, if it's the right thing to do, if it's allowed, if it makes it more efficient. Look, if it makes it more efficient and actually puts more money into the budget to help you and me, I'm all for it. But I don't know the answer to that question, and neither do you, I would suggest. So,
That's right. I mean, 100% what you just said. So again, it would be great to see the Premier and maybe perhaps the Minister for Health and Community Services to come on and shed some light, make themselves available
Absolutely.
to media for some. We're calling for transparency here. So I'll leave it on that note. But that said, though, happy Valentine's to you, Brian, and happy Valentine's to my constituents and people across Newfoundland and Labrador. I'll be visiting with the seniors later on today to have a Valentine's visit to them here in my district. So have a great weekend and take good care. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Great, Pam. All the best, and all the same to you. And I know there's going to probably be some tough conversations out there, given that this is Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week, given the goings-on the west coast of our country. But I'm sure there'll be tough and good conversations there this morning. So thanks again for the call. All right, we're going to take, where we're going, line number 4. And Lewis, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning.
Morning, sir.
I'm just calling in response to all the poor publicity in the initial setup of speeding cameras in municipal areas and all the financial hardships that's going to cause with people getting hard insurance rates, probably losing their license.
Lewis, I'm just wondering, Lewis, are you hands-free or is it on a speaker or anything? It's breaking up. I'm not sure if you are, but...
No, I'll be in a basement, but I could move to the upstairs and see if the call's any
Actually, that's
clearer.
pretty good where you are right now. Keep going. Sorry to interrupt you.
Okay, Mr. Guzny came out this week and talked about he went back and revisited tickets that were accumulated in municipal areas by the previous administration, and that he was going to be sending out those tickets real soon in the mail. And there was lots of publicity this week in regard of the tickets and stuff like that. But as in, the initial setup and the publicity in the initial setup, to me, it was brand new. I don't know where I was at the time when all this was going down, but the previous administration had paused this. But Mr. Guzny and all of his, whatever role he got as government services, decided to go back and create the financial hardships that's going to cost with your insurance, and probably to a point of some people who weren't aware, probably even losing their license or their right to drive to and from work because they accumulated so many tickets. And I know in a perfect world, no one's supposed to speed. Everybody's supposed to abide by the rules and stuff like this. But yesterday, I took the initiative. I went in on Black Marsh Road. They had one installed on the west end of Black Marsh Road, where it's very densely, hardly any population. Now, on the densely populated end, they haven't got the camera or nothing like that. So it's sort of set up. Now, on Larkall, school area, I agree with it 100%. But now that they're going back and digging up these tickets, it's a form of entrapment because the tickets weren't sent out in a timely fashion, giving people the time to accumulate more tickets, and to a point of when they come out, you're really going to have a big uproar. It's going back to a previous administration, and Mr. Guzny, what were you thinking? Okay, safety comes first, I agree. And the $3.1 million, like he said, doesn't make a difference that he's going to accumulate. Now, having said all that, tickets save lives and dig them up. But it's all in the past. It's months in the past. like when the RCMP or the RNC administer a ticket, they use their judgment in giving tickets, clear day, width, day, area, all this kind of things. This is a camera. And I know because Brampton had to make this defunct. It was causing so much financial hardship, and what the board called it was a municipal cash grab. That's the words, and Brampton has moved away from it. In last fall, they moved away from it.
Well, I won't say, just to be clear, and I know you mentioned, sorry, Lewis, to interrupt, but just to be clear, first of all, where do I start? First of all, if you're accumulating speeding tickets, that's on you. Whether you call it a crime, whatever you want to call what the government's doing, if you're speeding and you did it and it's on camera, and, a few kilometers over, about 10, 15, and we know people go faster than that, then it's on you. So accumulation of tickets is completely on the driver, and so that can't be planned. And the issue last year, just for our listeners, of course, the postal strike disrupted everything, including getting those tickets in the mail. So the government at the time, the Liberal government decided to hold off, not fire them all into the mail, and then, of course, everything's backlogged, they don't know, and then they have an administrative nightmare after that with what's out there, what's not out there, what has to be sent again, and everything that comes with a ticket fine, like a fine for speeding. And so, the new government came in and they looked at it, and, there's a backlog, a large backlog. There are, more than 8,000 speeding tickets, I think, and worth some $3 or $4 million. You can call it a cash grab, but it's not a cash grab if you don't speed, because they don't get any money. And it's all designed to make the road safer, period. And I have a problem with, speed cameras, you may not like them, but if it reduces any of them, just like the cop parked on the side of the road as you're coming over the crest of a hill, how quick are you jamming on those brakes? And you can see it. Other cars coming the way, all the brake lights going on. And so, look, say what you want about the new Minister of Government Services, Mr. Guzny. He just said he didn't want to make a knee-jerk reaction and fire them all off at the time either, but there had to be a time to do it. And so the postal strike, now that things have settled down, so we hear, you never know, now is the time to do it, and they want to get them out in the mail, and they have to, and it's just a process. I don't know how much could be said critically about that.
Well, said critically in Brampton, they had to cancel it. The thing is, in Brampton, one thing, you probably get one envelope with 11 tickets in. Don't you, like, if he pulls you over, you said, oh my God, I did something bad. You go wandering in Black Marsh Road, and is it fair that people who frequent that every day, as opposed to there's no west of Gander, nothing west of Gander? Isn't that like, okay, like there's nothing on the peninsula? These people, they can speed. Okay, it's okay.
Sorry, Lewis, I think we were slowly but surely losing you, and now I think we've lost you altogether. That's just the phone line. It was great there for a while, whatever you did, but I think she's lost again. All right, Dave, let's take that break. Point made by Lewis, but I got to be honest, they got to do what they got to do. Let's take that break and be right back with Janet, Carl, and Wade's going to talk about Newfoundland Power and Fortis interprovincial trade right after the break. And welcome back to the program. Let's go right to line number one. And Janet McNaughton, you're on the air.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. So I'm an intimate partner violence activist, and I became one because of a tragedy. And since my friend died, a small group of us called Act Now have been working to try to figure out how to make things better. So intimate partner violence is not rocket science. The patterns are well studied, and we know how to intervene early to stop things, and we know what to do when the situation is really urgent. And that's what I want to talk about today. So like so many other people in this province, we're really frustrated by the way people are charged, released on bail with very few conditions. They breach, they release again. And what people don't see is an intimate partner violence is a little different, because this person who is released has a specific aim, and that is to intimidate or terrorize a woman and her children. So one of the things that is very useful in this situation is ankle monitoring, because I have personally witnessed a situation where somebody's out on bail. Just imagine, okay, so you know that somebody is out on bail. He knows where you live. He knows where your children go to school. He knows where all your friends and relatives live, and you have no way of knowing, and he's threatened to kill you. You have no way of knowing where he is. So one of the things that is very effective is ankle monitoring. Prince Edward Island, Manitoba, and Quebec have ankle monitoring programs that are used with intimate partner violence accused who are released on bail. In Prince Edward Island, in more than a decade of using this program, they had one serious breach. And that was stopped because there's a siren in the ankle monitor. It went off, and the guy ran to his car, and because they were tracking him, they were able to pick him up. Quebec has found a 96% deterrent rate in approaches to women who are in these zones of protection. So we have a petition, and like all petitions that go to the House of Assembly, it can't be put online. It has to be in hard copy. So our petition is asking, the government has an ankle monitoring program now. It's only used for people who are on probation or temporary release. And it's not suited specifically to protecting intimate partner victims, because what happens now is, I have to step back a little bit and explain what happens with GPS monitoring. Okay, they put zones of exclusion around particular areas. So you can put, the ankle monitor goes on the person, and then there's specific zones of exclusion. So around a home, around a school, around a workplace. And also people can carry either a cell phone application or a small keychain-like device that gives a mobile zone of exclusion. So a person can move freely through the community. So when that is violated, a warning goes out. So we want this kind of technology, which they have in Prince Edward Island, they have in Quebec, to be brought here and used when repeat and violent intimate partner violence accused are released on bail, or when there are breaches and they're released again.
Janet, look, as someone who covers the courts on a regular basis, I hear everything you're saying. It's all right on the money, right on the mark. As far as, bail, that was great in the past, but in the cases of intimate partner, I can't agree with you more wholeheartedly. The issue, and look, I welcome, an update from the provincial government, the new government on this. It got royal assent. The changes for ankle monitoring, bracelet monitoring did get royal assent, I think, back in 2019. Yeah, and then it got royal assent later, but it's been slowly but surely still, on the pages. And as you said, not introduced yet for bail conditions, only for people already convicted of offences who've been released, or temporary absences and that sort of thing. The problem I've seen right on the ground in the courtroom when these requests come up, say on a sentencing or even on a release plan, it's the availability of them. And not just the availability, and I'm talking getting them from suppliers and ones that suit our jurisdiction. We've been told that, rural areas, the radio frequency or the satellite technology doesn't work. I think that
is true. Okay, that it is true that they're not appropriate for, I've got a summer cabin in a place where there's no cell phone service whatsoever, and they won't work in those situations, and that is really unfortunate. But the system that the government
and I'm not saying that's an excuse.
Now,
I just wanted to say that's not an excuse. I just wanted to say that, that is the wall that the Crown and the courts run into every time. I've seen sheriff's officers speak up and say that won't work, Your Honor. Yeah, because that is, a real issue. Anyway, I just wanted to say I'm not saying it's an excuse or anything, but it's what they run into every time, the financial cost and the availability. Okay,
so right now they've got it in Clarenville, St. John's, and Happy Valley Goose Bay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so not just in an urban area. The other thing is that you can do this the cheap way, or you can do it the really expensive way. Prince Edward Island and Manitoba bought the monitors. Okay, and Prince Edward Island runs its own program. There's a woman who used to be a parole officer. She has a small staff. They do their own monitoring 24 hours a day, and it costs about $15 a day per active monitor.
That sounds like something that, I don't know if that's included in your petition that you're going to present to the House of Assembly, but it's a great point. I mean, you have to lean, it has to be a cooperative thing between the provincial government and society and people, organizations like that, and cost should never be never be a prohibitive factor in this particular situation that we're talking about.
It's also false economy, Brian, because a murder trial costs at least $500,000.
Yeah.
You know, so if you prevent a couple of murders a year, that program has paid for itself.
Agreed. Totally agree, Janet.
You know, so it is, I mean, a lot, and also, like, if this can stop, if you go into a docket and you put the word breach, you'll get, like, each day, maybe 75 charges.
Or more.
Yeah, or more. And these breaches are clogging up the court system. They're just making it very, very difficult for everybody to do their job. Also, as far as police are concerned, when it's a breach now, and I've seen this situation, so your kids see the guy driving past your home and he's not supposed to be there. You phone the police and the police say, well, children aren't really reliable witnesses, so we can't do anything about that. Or, you know, it comes down to a he said, she said situation, or Buddy gets somebody, a friend, to say, I was with him when you say he was threatening his wife, you know. And if you have ankle monitoring, all of those situations, you have hard evidence. So I just want to say something really, like some really concrete things about the petition.
Yeah,
okay?
Sure, please do.
It's at Food for Thought, which is 84 Gower Street, right around the corner from Bishop Field School. You can park in front of the school when it's closed. Okay, so people can go in there and sign the petition. Anybody wants a copy of the petition, they can contact me through my website, which is just janetmcnaughton.ca. Okay, if you put Janet McNaughton Children's Author, you don't even have to spell my name right. My website will come up, and there's a contact page there that lets you email me. Okay, and we want to try to get these petitions out. And I am really sorry that the technology doesn't work optimally where there is limited cell phone service, but and that's on the tone companies, actually. You know, that's not the government.
The infrastructure in these issues, that's just one of the really big issues with all the infrastructure and the connectivity or lack thereof in the province. Totally agree.
Yeah. Now, the ankle monitors do continue to record all the data when they're out of range. That doesn't help women who need protection, but it does give you evidence.
Yes.
The other thing I want to say about the current system is the way things are now, if I understand it correctly, if someone wearing an ankle monitor enters a zone of exclusion, the company contacts the police, who contact the parole officer, who contact victim services, who make a decision about whether they should inform the woman or not. That is not going to cut it if we're going to protect women from attackers.
That's too many levels of, that's just too many hoops to jump through,
in
right?
Prince Edward Island, they can see the guy approaching. And the other thing is that when people get these ankle monitors, the first thing they do is test out the boundaries. And if nothing happens, then they feel emboldened, you know. So, like, we have been collecting information for more than a year now. We're just about to go into conversations with Manitoba to find out how theirs is working. One more thing. There was a story just a couple of weeks ago. Guy cut off his ankle monitor. There are two kinds of ankle monitors. There's the cloth strap and there's the stainless steel ankle monitor. The cloth strap are very easy to cut off. The stainless steel ones are tamper-proof. If you try to tamper with them, they send out an alarm to the system, the monitors, and they know right away that somebody's trying to tamper with them. So, again, if they're using cloth straps, that's false economy.
Yeah. And again, it's not for lack of wanting these supports and these protections in place. I can tell you that it's amazing how it comes down to the minutia of suppliers, consistency of the product that they're getting, making sure that it works with all the different law enforcement and levels of justice and corrections in this province. You know, when you're sitting there listening to it, it gives it a perspective. But look, the bottom line, you've made the point. And we look forward to your petition in the House of Assembly, Janet.
Thank you very much. So, Food for Thought, 84 Gower Street, or Janet at janetmcnaughton.ca, and I'll be really happy. I will go anywhere in St. John's, Mount Pearl, and deliver these by hand.
I have no doubt about that whatsoever. Thank you so much for the call this morning, Janet. We'll work on this one, absolutely. Thank you. All right, let's take that break. A little couple of minutes past. Coming back with Carl and Wade right after the break. And welcome back to the program. Oh, my God, Dave, I can't remember. That quick. 2 or 3. We're going to line number 3, and Wade, you're on the air.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Wade. How are you?
Not bad, boy. Not bad at all. Looking to me.
Having a... Dave, is it just the phone line, or is there... You still there, Wade?
Yeah, I'm here. You hear me?
Okay, I can now. Yeah, it was broken up there a bit. Just keep going. We'll see how it goes. What's on the mind?
Right answer. I read an article yesterday or the day before there talking about Fortis and their over 400 million profit in the last quarter, and they're scheduled to go up to 499 million in the first quarter of this year.
Correct. 422. Yeah, they're looking at about a fourth quarter profit of almost 450 million.
Who owns Fortis? Isn't that a Newfoundland corporation? Isn't that a Newfoundland Crown company?
It is indeed not a Crown company. It's a private Newfoundland company.
Okay, well, why can't the government make some legislation? They know for fact that families and seniors and everybody on this island is choosing food or power or electricity. And these guys are making billions a year in profit, but yet the PUB comes out and says it's fair to increase the price every 2 or 3 months. Like, what's going on here? Have people got to shake their head, or like, what the hell is going on when the corporations are benefiting billions a year and people can't turn on their heat because they can't afford it?
Listen, I mean, a private company does with what its shareholders and private profits do. What can I say? For years and years and years, the question has been asked why a great, massive, multinational energy company such as Fortis doesn't have their hand in Churchill Falls, doesn't have their hand in any of the larger energy projects that this province has faced down. The question's been asked for years. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, but when they need an upgrade, who pays for it? The ratepayers, not the company. Every time something needs to be upgraded or replaced, who pays for it? Oh, we got to get an increase to pay for this because, we got to increase the electricity output. They were asking us again.
Oh, okay. We lost that one there, Dave. We're going to try to keep the language to a minimum here, I think, keep it a good family show and all the rest of it. There's lines to be crossed. Let's try to, and especially if you have sort of dropped a bomb or any of those other words on the air, it's probably a shorter leash than most. Let's go right to line number 2. Carl, you're on the air.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
Fantastic. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and speak to your audience about the situation that's deteriorating down here on the Burin Peninsula as domestic garbage falls into the Atlantic Ocean from the Fortune Head Ecological Reserve. Ecological Reserve, obviously, created to protect the environment, and there's an environmental disaster unfolding. In recent times, I've been talking to different business people and some of the councillors here on the Burin Peninsula, and one of the things that I found nobody who's happy with this. I found nobody who supports it. Not a liberal problem, not a conservative problem. It's an environmental problem.
Mm-hmm. No argument here.
One of the things that seems to come up sometimes is the cost of all this. So I just wanted to deal with that for a second.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
So this is a environmental disaster going into the ocean. There's going to be cost, obviously. Besides that, the legal responsibility for this site lies with the provincial government, the Department of the Environment and Climate Change. Ironically, they operate that site. So I think they got a moral responsibility and a legal responsibility to look out to this in the fashion that it was created. So I would suggest that they're falling short of their commitments when they created this thing back in 1992. As far as the cost goes, I have a report that was shared with me by the departments, and it was wonderful to see the report get created. It was a site assessment done by an environmental engineering company. That company estimates, gives a couple of options, and they estimate one solution could cost as much as $3 million. Another solution could cost as high as $10 million. So this is not going to be a very cheap adventure.
Which probably explains a lot of the criticisms that you have.
No, I understand that.
Yep.
Listen, this is an issue that ain't going to go away. Like a leak in your roof. It's not going to get no better. So when you get the leak, you got water. Sometime after that, you got mold. Sometime after that, you got to take the building down. So that's where these environmental things tend to go. But today, they're estimating, or last year, I should say, they estimate $3 million for one option and 10 for the other. But also there's costs. What about the cost of Newfoundland's reputation? Newfoundland advertises it all across the world as a nature place, as a place to come, pristine environments and coastal views and all these things.
We're not showing these pictures that you've sent along or that you've posted publicly along with the clothes on the coastline. Look, Carol, I got about a minute before the news. I just want to give you that heads up. I'll give you the last say. I just want to ask you, I know you're calling for some kind of financial or even a mention in the budget to see if they can allot some money to this, the money that you said needs to be done, or at least a start. What kind of communication have you had? Have you had any sort of back and forth or gauge what kind of interest there is that might be into dealing with this?
So, I don't want commitments or anything else. I just want to know what they're going to do. So,
well, have you gotten that?
We've had wonderful, not wonderful. We had tepid communication with the past government. The past government sent me a group of letters, a group of communications saying they're waiting for this report, they're waiting for this site assessment to make decisions and all those things. So I got letters all to that effect. But since the change in government, I'm getting ghosted. The young people would say no answer to phone calls, no answer to emails, no answer to letters. So whatever's happening, all I want is to find out where you're going to go with it.
Fair enough.
Yep. Obviously, in front of us, we can see an environmental mess. And as you mentioned, the advertising. Is it ethical to advertise beautiful, scenic places and send tourists to a dump site?
Yeah, well, look, Carl, I would say on that front, and I really got to get to the news, I would say on that front, every province has its sore spots, its sore points, it's sore for, well, what's the word I'm looking for? But anyway, we all got our little garbage dumps and bad spots we're not proud of. Every province has them, so I wouldn't throw the whole baby out with the bathwater. I mean, let's be, let's relax a little bit here. We have beautiful, pristine areas in this province. Some of them have absolutely been neglected. And look, I look forward to an update on it. I got to get to the news, but I look forward to an update. Listen, if you get any kind of response from the provincial government and an interest in dealing with this, let us know. And listen, and join me again online, or whoever is in this chair or this studio, because I always stand up. We're more than open to it. When the House opens, they got a laundry list of stuff to get to, and with any luck, this one will be on it. All right, off to the news, Dave. Sorry about the minute late. Let's get off to that break, and we'll join you right back here after the news. And welcome back to the program. Right to line one, and Amelia O'Day, the Executive Director of the Arua Counselling Centre. You're on the air.
Hi there. Thanks so much for having me.
Our pleasure, Amelia. So, for those who aren't completely aware, and this is relatively new and fresh, what is the Arua Counselling Centre?
So RUA is a nonprofit, community-based counseling agency, and we service individuals age 16 and older all across Newfoundland and Labrador. Our center service is located in St. John's, so people are able to avail of in-person counseling sessions at our home office. However, we also are able to provide virtual and telephone services, and that helps us to allow people all across Newfoundland and Labrador to access our services through a virtual nature.
So this is part of the North Pine Foundation, correct? And going back as well to the Vita Nova, can you just clarify the link there?
Absolutely. So we've reached out to the North Pine Foundation first in around 2023, and so they're actually a separate organization. I won't speak for them, but they're a philanthropic organization. They help to finance underinvested and underserved I guess, places like us, a nonprofit agency, to be able to do more meaningful work. And they really look at how can we establish measurement outcomes to see how investments can help make a real difference, and how can we measure the difference that these investments are making. So again, I won't speak for them, but they are the place that we've reached out to for support, because I'm sure, as you're aware, as a nonprofit organization, sustainability is always an issue. So you're always trying to make sure that you can plan for the next 6 months, the next year. And RUA reached out to North Pine, and they've recently agreed, after proposals and a lot of work and research, to fund us for a 2-year period and invest up to $875,000 to help us expand our services.
Wow.
And the focus is going to be on reaching out to more people in rural and remote communities. And because of technology and the ability for us to do virtual services, we have a real opportunity to do that here. So we will continue with our existing service model. We service, we have a full running operation here now, servicing people in Newfoundland and Labrador. But this investment is going to help us expand our services, which is going to increase accessibility to mental health services, reduce wait times, which is often a huge issue. And we're just so grateful and excited for this opportunity to be able to bring more quality and professional mental health services to people in Newfoundland, especially people in rural who may not have the same access to services as people in the St. John's area.
Wow, almost $1 million. And, you can't, in my opinion, can't throw enough money at this problem, this crisis, I should say, that we're all dealing with. The RUA Counselling Centre itself, now, as you mentioned, you'll be able to hopefully accept more referrals, shorten wait times, add counselling sessions and staff. Is the RUA Counselling Centre a physical building, or is it just the entity and you sort of farm out your services?
Good question. So we are located at 35 Barnes Road in St. John's. We've been operating out of the Lantern Building, which is a beautiful community building, also another nonprofit agency. And we really are in the heart of the community, so we're located near downtown. We service people, of course, from all over the province, but it's we're a close-knit agency. We're a smaller agency. We accept referrals from people who just decide, I'd like to reach out for counseling service. I'm going to put a request in. And then we also receive a lot of referrals from physicians, psychiatrists, other community agencies such as Stella Circle, the Murphy Center, many Newfoundland Health Services. So we do provide the service centrally out of our office located in St. John's, but our counselors do provide virtual service outside of this office so that people can access services from their homes and in their home communities.
Basically, I'm just trying to get a handle on RUA, because, as somebody in the media and seeing all these stories, and, this is the first time I've actually, and I don't gauge that as, no reflection on how public the announcement has been of the creation of RUA, but it's kind of under the radar for me compared to some of the larger stories and issues in the news. When was it formed? What's the genesis of this?
Great question. So RUA has actually been around for almost 50 years. We're moving into 50 years of RUA.
Jeez,
however,
I feel out of touch then.
Well, no, to be fair, it wasn't always known as RUA. So we started off as what was called the Family Life Bureau. And historically, the Family Life Bureau was funded fully by the Archdiocese of St. John's.
Right.
So while it was funded by the Archdiocese, we weren't connected with them in the terms of the services that we provide. We provide inclusive services to people of all faith, no faith. Anyone who needs counseling services has been welcome at RUA. When the Archdiocese were no longer able to fund RUA in 2021, our independent board of directors decided to keep RUA open and to go out independently as a nonprofit organization. So we applied for charitable status, and our staff and our board have been working tirelessly since 2022 just to keep the doors open, to make sure we continue to service the people who we have been servicing, because we recognize that if RUA were to close its doors, it would be a huge gap in the community. And really, one of the reasons we don't advertise is because we've always had a wait list. We've never had to advertise for our services because so many other community agencies rely on us and send referrals, that we always have had a wait time of about 3 months from the time someone submits their request for service until they're connected with a counselor. So accessibility is one of our core values, so we're always trying to reduce those wait times. And I guess that's one of the most exciting parts of this grant for us, is to be able to get more staff, have more counseling hours, and reduce those wait times lower than 3 months. Yeah,
this is great news, no matter how you slice it. And I'm glad I asked about the Family Life Bureau. I wasn't aware that was the initial. My mom worked for the Family. Shout out to my 91-year-old mother, who I'm sure is.
My goodness.
She worked with the Family Life Bureau in the Archdiocese back in the day when the Monitor newspaper and all of that was happening, and all the good work they were doing. So shout out to my mom.
Amazing.
I don't do that very often, but I'm going to use that shameless plug and segue to say hi to my mom this morning. Anything else you wanted to clue up with, Amelia, before I take the break?
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. And part of why we haven't been able to really advertise is, of course, we get enough referrals, and we don't want to increase wait time. So now that we know that we're going to have funding to increase our counseling hours, increase our capacity, we're happy to spread the word. If anyone has any inquiries about RUA Counseling Centre, the individual, couple, or family counseling services that we provide, as well as psychoeducational supportive groups, workshops, please visit our website, www.ruacounseling.ca. You can also send an email inquiry or call us 709-579-0168, or email info@ruacounseling.ca, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
And if you didn't catch some of that or missed a bit of it, you can always get that information from us and, of course, at the website that you mentioned. Amelia O'Day, thanks so much for this call this morning. We can't have enough of these, just to keep it on the top, on the front burner, no question.
Yes, my pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Take care.
Have a great weekend.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye. And okay, let's take that break, Dave. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the program. Let's go right to line number 2 and talk to Simeon Chakapesh. You're on the air.
Good morning. I'm calling from Shanghai, Labrador, and I just want to briefly touch on the Labrador Inner Children Inquiry that's been happening for the last few years within Chadwick and Navachich.
Absolutely, Simeon, and I'm glad you called about it. First of all, how are you doing? Last time, we've spoken a lot over the years, and the last time I spoke, you had some serious health challenges of your own. You were in hospital bed last time we spoke, and of course, following the loss of your son, and so much you've been through, as, of course, the former chief of Natwishish and the former deputy grand chief of the Innu Nation of Labrador. You know what's going on up there. Sorry, but I just wondering how you're doing these days, because we haven't spoken in a while.
Well, I haven't been on the go very much, and not very vocal myself, because after losing my son a couple of years ago, the second oldest son, I lost my son in our truck. He passed away in my truck of alcohol abuse and drug abuse. And right after last Sunday, I started drinking myself. I started doing drugs, started doing hard cocaine, and but I'm in recovery, and I've been sober ever since November 27 to this present day, and I've been attending meetings. I've been dealing with my grief issue. Been talking about Santa Hart's case. I've been dealing with my son's death and my granddaughter Everly. So it's so much on the go. Life is so short. But I was on the verge of dying myself with alcohol abuse and drug abuse. But I finally took a step and said, "Well." And my wife said, "You got to stop drinking." That was my turning point for me to stop doing the stuff that I was doing. I totally gave up.
Not easy easy stuff at all. Anyway, I'm sorry I got you sidetracked. You wanted to talk about the inquiries.
Yeah. On February 23rd, 2026, the meeting has been moved to St. John's, the capital city of Newfoundland, and it's been moved, and now all the delegation or the participants, especially my family, that's gonna be there, and the elders, and my wife's family, her biological sisters will be there, brothers, and my own sisters, and also my uncles will be participating in the circle. I believe this circle meeting will be we'll be taking the mics at this time from Child Family Services, and also the treatment centers what my son attended and what happened, and it's their time to take the mic, and we are there to listen. But I would just want to go back a little bit briefly of the history of people of Davison and Natashis.
Yes, Davison, that should never be far from our minds, absolutely.
Yeah, and Davison and old Davison. But back in 1600s, I truly believe, and the stories has been told by our elders and elders and grandparents and our fathers that left before us by now, and the stories are very strong, and the memories are very evident today. And I'm one of those people. I think the generation that resided in the country for a number of months, back in 1978, and I was raised in the bush, and I was trained to become Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay, Simeon. It sounds like you're kind of busy there.
My wife and my wife here keep talking. They keep distracting me, distracting me. So anyway, I lost my train of thought there. Anyway, that's
When are you mentioned the 23rd? Is that when you're going to appear before the inquiry?
Yeah, February 23rd, supposed to be hearing in St. John's. I don't know what's the duration of the hearings, but the people from Labrador will be there. The elders, I'll be there. I'll be probably taking the mic as well. And
do you know where? Do you know where exactly that one's happening yet? I'm sure we'll find out.
I have no idea, but I want to touch base how the change transform our way of life as a nomadic people. Like we were nomadic hunters, our grandparents were nomadic hunters, and now when European fur traders came to our shores, the missionaries, the governments, and now we encounter assimilation, colonialism, systemic racism, and then dealing with justice, education, you name it, the whole 9 yards. And we were trying to be transformed as a modern white people to live in a modern society like we live in Navajo today, and also Shesh. And we were assimilated. Our spirituality was condemned by the priests. Our way of life was condemned by two levels of government. And having said that, because they thought they were going to assimilate us and turn us to live white good Indians into little cowboys, which that only we experienced a disaster, and now we're dealing with white supremacy, put it that way. I can't find my words because it's really distracting.
No, I understand, Simeon. Completely understand.
And now we're facing pain and suffering because of those policies from government, Child Welfare Act, education, justice, health care, you name it. We're the ones who are suffering really bad now because our fathers were not well educated when Europeans introduced themselves into our lands and introduced their policies, their way of life, how to change people from nomadic hunters to nomadic living people and trying to live in the modern Canadian society as we live in today.
Simeon, to say the least, and I will say this, the integration of Indigenous peoples with us, who came along after, has not gone well. It has never gone well. The understanding hasn't been there. The appreciation for all of the culture and the people who were here first has not gone well. And just doing that land acknowledgements, I guess it makes some people feel okay. Makes people feel better, maybe. And I'm not saying that is a negative connotation when it ever happens at events and that sort of thing. But these days, it just feels like it's riddled off as a script, and it's not really taken. People are forgetting. It's one of those things that's right in front of your face. It's so ubiquitous that it doesn't feel It doesn't have the same meaning or significance that it did when we first started acknowledging it. So that's just one aspect of it. Simeon, only because of the time on the clock, I'll give you a couple of minutes to wrap up there. Sorry about that, but go for it.
Yeah. Given the time of what happened there, and I realized that if something should happen to a non-Aboriginal person, if there was a big traumatized, and I'm pretty sure that the feds or provincial government will try to accommodate their own, because they simply cannot leave their own behind. And that's the story always. When people experience post-traumatic stress trauma, and a lot
intergenerational
trauma. And who's going to provide the counseling, mental health counseling? Who's going to provide, like, for instance, what happened to my family? Who's going to provide counseling, me and my wife and my daughters, surviving daughters? And who's going to provide that mental health counseling? Who's going to provide that? I certainly not going to be able to provide that. Certainly my elders won't be able to provide that. Somebody's got to take accountability and responsibility. And those are my words. And thank you for listening.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much, Simeon. It's good to hear your voice. I'm glad to hear you're still doing your hard advocacy work. And good luck with the recovery and everything. I know it's not easy. These are tough decisions, tough calls, tough discussions. But we look forward to hearing more of the investigation proceedings with the inquiry coming up at the end of this month. Pardon me?
Hope to see you in St. John's.
I do. Did you say you're here or you're...
No, not yet. I'm still in Shesh.
Okay, well, when you get to town, look me up, give me a shout.
You'll take me to Tim Hortons coffee. I don't take sugars now.
I'm still on the black. All I do is take it black.
Thank you. Good for you.
Good enough.
Okay,
Thanks. Take care, Simeon. Good to hear from you. All right, let's take that early break and come back with former Mayor Doc O'Keefe in the queue right after the break. Welcome back to the program. Let's go right to line number 3 and former St. John's Mayor Dennis O'Keefe. You're on the air.
How are you, Brian?
I'm good, sir. Long time no talk. I hear you got an appointment coming up in the next 20 minutes or so. So I'm sorry for the short shrift, but give her.
Yeah, no problem, boy. I do physio every Friday to keep the bones going. Let's put it that way.
I hear you.
And it hurts when the weather is colder, and that's what I want to talk about this morning. As you well know, of course, being somebody who has a home to heat, we're in a critical time of the year, right into the dead of a really, really cold winter. And what piqued me now this morning was the announcement by the Public Utilities Board that the price of furnace oil, electricity is high enough. I mean, people are paying a whole lot of money to try and heat their homes. And people are burning a lot of furnace oil also to try and heat their homes. So this morning, the Public Utilities Board, in a very terse announcement, which is their nature, raised, well, let's go back to January 30th. The price of a litre of furnace oil was $1.35.8. February 6th, last Friday, it was $1.40.4. And they used the interruption formula on February 10th, which would have been Tuesday of this week, to increase it from $1.40 to $1.46. And today, as they do every Friday, of course, they made the announcement, and they raised the price to $1.51 per litre. So, you're looking at between January 30th and February 6th, or January 30th and February 6th, right up to February 13th, you're looking at a very substantial increase in the price of a litre of furnace oil. Now, people are finding it difficult enough now to heat their homes and feed their families and avail of the basic necessities of life, one of which is heat, whether it's by electricity or oil or whatever. People need to heat their homes during the winter. These prices are before taxes, which makes the situation even worse. And I think the Public Utility Board needs to make an explanation. Look, it's not enough just to raise the price every Friday and in the middle on February 10th use the interruption formula and raise it again. But people need to know, why is the price of furnace oil, why is the cost of heat increasing so dramatically since the end of January?
I'd be up for any rhyme or reason to why the pub does what it does. Dennis, to be perfectly honest with you, we know they don't necessarily have a communications person. We know that they repped us, the media, on the knuckles there a year ago or 2 years ago for daring to suggest, what the price might be the next day instead of the secrecy that surrounds it. And we all got to wake up and find out what happened so we can't prepare for it. Sorry, my short rant. Continue.
No, I met with the Public Utilities Board several times during last summer when they were changing the system a little bit, and that was one of the issues, Brian, I raised with them. In fact, that communication was all very, very important to people understanding why the cost of energy was increasing. And it's not enough, and it's still not enough, just to make a terse announcement on a Friday to say, well, okay, folks, now the price of your furnace oil is going up another 5 cents a litre. And yes, we put it up on Tuesday, and yes, we put it up last Friday. And again, this is before any kind of taxation. So two things I would like to see. Bottom line, one, I would like the Public Utilities Board, when they increase the price, to provide the rationale for increasing the price and not just a terse announcement that is going to cause a lot of grief for a lot of people when they have to sit down and say, well, I can't turn the heat on in the house. I don't have the money.
And I assume you're talking about a layman's sort of explanation as opposed to the 3 or 4 lines regarding stock commodities and volatility in the markets and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, and they haven't even said that. I mean, I follow the price of energy every day. And I haven't seen that kind of volatility that would result in this kind of a consistent increase from January 30th up until today, February the 13th. And it's tantamount for the Utilities Board to provide a rationale anytime they increase or even when they decrease the price. People need to know if they're being treated properly, and they need to be able to heat their homes during the dead of winter. And I'd also like the provincial government to consider, and I've called for it for years, and I know others have too, you really need to help people by removing the sales tax from heat during the winter months. I have no idea what it would cost, but I'm sure that figure would be readily available. But it would be really, really, it would really enable a lot of people to live better, to heat their homes and have some comfort during the really, really cold of a winter.
And just be clear, are we still talking about the HST, or are we?
We'll be talking about the HST,
because we know
the tax on heat, which is a commodity that is an absolute necessity and should never be taxed in the meantime. But at least remove the provincial portion of the HST from heat, from oil, and from heat, no matter how it is generated in a home, remove the tax.
Yeah, the Premier told me to my face about just before Christmas at MUN, they're not going to do that. His rationale at the time, and of course we know that the previous Liberal government under Siobhan Cody said they couldn't do it. Then the Liberals made the promise that they would do it before the election last time around. The Tories have won. I asked the Premier, will you do it? And his suggestion to me, and I'm going to get this right, I know they're listening, but the general gist of it was it would not help the people who need it the most. In other words, the most HST that's being charged are being charged on big homes with lots of heat going through them, and that's only where the most savings would be seen or incurred. I've had people push back. I'm just a messenger, saying that, look, any kind of break on the tax right now, especially the way the heat bills are going, would be a help. So I've just put that out there for food for thought.
No, Brian, I mean, I would say to government, you should go into any of the malls, the Avalon Mall, the Village Mall, areas where people go during the run of a day, particularly on really cold winter days, just to get some heat because they turn the heat down in the morning in their homes and they leave and they go in somewhere where it's warm, and that way they can save a few dollars to have a little bit of heat the next day, basically, right? And that's happening.
Yep.
Pardon me?
So every little bit would help.
Oh, there's no doubt about it, and I mean, you know, we don't tax the things that are absolutely necessary to our life and to our comfort. And heat is one of those things in Canada. We are a winter country and we're a winter province, and it's really something they should give a lot of consideration to. Remove the HST from heat, period.
Sure. I'll be surprised if they change that tune, although who knows, between now and then, as they crunch the numbers. And you know, I remember current Finance Minister Craig Pardy had mentioned before Christmas that he was and others were surprised at the size of the deficit. I was kind of surprised myself that he would say that. But look, the budget's still to come, and I've been told no, but who knows, that they have other ways to deal with the cost of living. We shall see. We wait and see.
Well, the budget may be coming, but the cold days are here right now.
You got that right. Oh, my. Anyway, feel it in the bone.
All right. Well, maybe they're listening, and just something for them to consider.
Absolutely, Dennis. Appreciate it. Always the call. Love to hear from a man with your experience all the time. Don't be a stranger to this show. I know you won't.
Okay, Brian. Take care of yourself.
You too, Doc. Thanks a lot. Okay, bye. All right, Dave, let's take that quick break, and right back with George going to talk about speed cams, Bill going to talk about St. Clair's, and Susan on NL Housing after the break. Welcome back to the show for this Friday. Let's go right to line number one, and George, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian.
Morning, sir. How are you?
First off, I'd like to say, I'm not against cameras for speeding that, but when I listened to the minister's announcement there the other day about the tickets and that, and the backload of tickets, and he referred to the safety issue of these cameras are put in places where there's a public safety concern. I was wondering if you could contact the Minister for Roads, because when they start to do construction on the roads, are these places going to be given priority for public safety on the highways? Because what we got now, especially in Clarendale, Gander, these areas, what we got is tractor trailers pulling on the side of the road, campers in the summertime pulling on the side of the road, going to Tim's or going to Irving's or whatever, and it's total chaos just trying to get on the highway. You know, these areas has been overdeveloped with businesses, and it's causing the public safety.
Yeah, so you're talking more about you're talking about more general moving violations and dangers and risks on the highway as opposed to just speeding, correct?
That is correct. I mean, if we're going to use the issue of safety for our cameras in these places, well, let's do our road construction so we can bypass the Trans-Canada Highway, can bypass these areas. I mean, you take Whitburn. Whitburn area there is a total chaos at most times, just trying to get on and off the highway. Clarendale, same thing.
It's arguably, yeah, that stretch right in front there at, by just before the access road, Argentia access, that commercial strip right there at Whitburn where Morelands used to be and everything else, that's one of the busiest, most complicated. You've got to be watching everyone. You've got to be on your game when you drive through there, no matter what you're doing. The cars that are turning left, turning right, in the middle median, waiting to get out of the Tims, waiting to get into the mirror. I just had to, that spot gives me goosebumps every time I drive through. I'm like on Uber awareness.
Yes, and Clarendale is basically getting the same, especially when we ain't got the area there for like one thing Whitburn got for going for, at least tractor trailers and get off the highway, and campers. But in Gander, in Clarendale, they have nowhere to go.
Point taken.
They're going to stop for the Thames.
Yeah,
and we got tractor trailers parked on both sides of the road at times, and I'm surprised that more accidents don't occur there.
And not given, just going to say, not to give the Trans-Canada through Gander. I mean, that's another spot. And, through Deer Lake. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
The other thing is it's all right to reduce speeds. And for the majority of people, there are people travel within the speed limit or within 5 or 6 kilometers within the speed limit. But when you're coming out of the 100-kilometer zone and got to slow down to 60 kilometers, even if you no intention of speeding, your vehicle got a tendency to creep up on you anyhow because you're so used to driving that 100 kilometers or 105 kilometers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, that's just, the slowdown that comes with entering these zones. I know the one as you go into Whitburn, there is plenty of time to gear down, slow down, get in that lane, and just be aware that so much is going on. I mean, there's a lot of awareness here. Speed cameras, okay. But look, slow the frig down. I'm sorry. Oh, my God.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And the majority of our accidents, I believe, is caused by speed. That's my personal opinion. But the thing is that if we're going to promote these cameras on safety, well, let's do our road construction on safety as well.
And I'm not even so sure. Look, I hear what you're saying. When you say majority of accidents caused by speed, I don't think that's true anymore. I think it's all inattentiveness, the various distractions that we have in a vehicle now, all the different gadgets and this and that and the other thing. And that's on top of all the other distractions that were already there, whether it's a pet, whether it's your hot coffee that spills on you, whether it's a bee that just happens to get into the window, whatever it is. Hands-free is good too, but you're still distracted in your mind. You may not be holding physically a telephone in your hand while you're driving, but your mind is on that conversation. It could be a serious one. It could be your kids. It could be anything. And that's taking you off the road. So that's where we could go on. Listen, I'm with you 100%. Anything that can to reduce, there's nothing, you can't reduce stupid or you can't reduce neglect. But you can, but we can do it in our own heads. I mean, it's really upon us. It's, waiting for government to put up more signage or put up more speed cameras. I mean, it's on us, right?
Yeah, but Brian, the government has already admitted that there's a safety issue. Why can't the Minister of Transportation come on your show and say they're going to address some of these areas with road construction where it's most needed for safety?
Well, we can only hope that the engineers, and any construction that is happening or the construction that needs to happen, as you said, remember that area around Sunnyside and Come by Chance. I mean, look, I had a friend almost killed there, ended up in traction for the rest of his life. Remember those old confusing in and out there. There's room for improvement on our highways everywhere. We see it, these little spots here and there. You have to hope engineers are being informed, and they are on those too. We have notorious areas we always hear from, and I don't have any word yet on the serious accident there that I reported on earlier this morning near Argentia, near the Argentia Access Road. Still waiting for some information on that. But yeah, George, listen, I'll give you a last comment. I agree to an extent, but a lot of it is on us, right? It's waiting for the government to fix things. People are going to die in the interim.
I can't disagree with you, Brian, but the thing is that we allow these businesses to build up in areas and congregate, and yes, for most purposes, the government can pick out spots, put the divided highway through, change the highway, and put lanes for accessing those businesses in place rather than having people drive through. It's just a commitment from government. If they're going to say safety is the issue, let's go all the way here and make safety a priority all the way through.
Yep, should be across the board, not just limited to cameras. Couldn't agree more. Thanks, George.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate the call. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, take care. All right, let's go right to line number 2. And Susan, you're on the air.
Good day. How are you today?
Good morning, Susan. Bad for a Friday, I suppose?
Yeah. Well, I was calling to touch on a couple objects here this morning now. So I advocate for my parents. They're seniors. So in the last fall, I fought for housing for them because their living situation has depleted. It's not their home. It's someone else's. So I sent off my application, everything I needed, medical notes, everything. So they come back to me. They say they're not accepted. They're $5,000 over the threshold for a year. To me, for seniors, for a year, that's pennies and dimes. Between our rising economy for groceries, everything in between. I've reached out to my local MHA, expecting, okay, well, let me advocate for you. No, I get a response from his secretary and saying, no, we have to go to a different government. That, like, you advocate for me to vote for you. I'm advocating for you to speak on our behalf. Like, where do one turn?
Well, where you said, I mean, the first place you turn has to be your member, only because he has more information. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and that's the thing. Like, and I turned to my MHA. I wrote a beautiful email. I've made calls, and my call back is a secretary. Like, I want to speak to someone who I voted, someone who asked me to speak for them. Now I want them to speak for me, right?
Oh, absolutely. So are you getting a return? Are you getting a reply of anything?
I got a call back from his secretary. That was it. And just telling me, oh, well, that's a different government. That's a different person you have to contact. Like, I'm trying my best. Like, these people, they got health issues. Their health is depleting because of their living situation. And I personally know, because of my industrial work, there is 4 units in housing right now in my area that are vacant. Like, I'm not saying I want a handout or I want a special threshold, but, like, our seniors are where we came from.
Are they vacant because they're just vacant, or are they fit? Like, are they bored? Like,
they're ready to move in. They're ready to move in. I live in a community of housing.
You're down on the Burin Peninsula, are you?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
On the Burin Peninsula, right? And I know 4 units. And it's sad. And who are they going to put in there? It's sad to say they're putting drug addicts in here. They're putting people that don't need. There's people living here that I know that some people are probably not even under lease.
You said the key words. I was just going to say, you said the key words there, Susan. Probably, maybe. I mean, we don't know. I always caution. You know, I know a situation for some. I know a situation for some might look like it's not appropriate. Like people are getting something that you're not, or others are getting something that you're not. We don't know the intricacies of everybody's individual file. Yeah. I just wanted to go back for a moment, though. When you contacted your MHA, you contacted the MHA for your district,
for my
correct?
Area.
And who's that?
Yeah. Mr. Paul Pike.
Paul Pike. Okay, so you're saying his secretary got back to you?
Yeah.
And said what?
Secretary got back. She told me.
Or EA, maybe his executive assistant, but yeah.
She said that it's outside their government and there's really nothing they can do or speak on it, nothing like that. They would have to bring it to the board and all this.
Well, that's what they're supposed to do. On your behalf, yeah.
Yeah, right, and saying they're not going to contact me back. Like, I'd have to work on this another way. That's why I'm calling.
And I won't say
they have. Get hurt.
And I won't say. I don't mean that they're supposed to go for you personally as a representative. Really, all I mean is they're the ones who should take this ball and run with it for you. It's your district. It doesn't matter if he's in government or not. He's still your advocate for all of these tangly discussions, especially when it comes to housing.
And I'm my parents' advocate. Like, I'm advocating for 70-year-old parents that their health is depleting. They're going down. And I just want somewhere comfortable. I'm not asking for a mansion on a hill. I'm just asking for a roof over their head that is going to be safe.
You began, Susan, by mentioning that they're like about $5,000 over the threshold. That may make it a non-starter out of the gate. And I know that people don't believe that some of the thresholds are fair, that there are extenuating circumstances for everybody where the money the actual income might not reflect how bad things are for them. But they all have to be adjudicated, and there's so many people in the line that you have to do it by the book, or else if you make exceptions or you bend the rules, that's when it goes sideways.
Right, and that's understandable, and, like, I get that, and I'm just, like, looking, like, does the government not see that our seniors are the ones that are suffering? Because there's a threshold over them because they decided to work in their life and contribute. But, like, they can't go work now to make up for the cost of living no more. It's impossible. Like, I can take 3 jobs. I can take 2 jobs.
At our age,
to make up for our rise in the economy.
Yep.
Right, but they can't.
Susan, you are speaking for, I was going to say the masses. I don't doubt that it is the masses. We all know our demographics in this province, and we're getting older before we get younger.
I'm the one that would advocate for all of the seniors. It's not just my parents. I advocate for all the seniors. I work in that department in my life.
Well, look, it's early days, and the government has committed, you know it, whether it's the cost of living, whether it's better health care, whether it's safer communities. You know, it's still very much a wait and see. The budget will tell the tale. If there's anything anything in there. I mean, I know people need it now, but the purse strings will either be loosened or tightened before April, and we wait with bated breath to see how it goes. Susan, I got to get off to the news. Thanks so much for your call. I wish you nothing but the best, as always.
And thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and as always, when you open a discussion like this on Open Line, please follow up at some point down the road, just to let us know if you've had any luck, with Mr. Pike, your MHA, and just the larger issue.
Most definitely. I will let you know,
awesome.
Because I'm sure I'm going to follow up with Minnie on this.
Okay. Get back to us. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care, Susan.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Off to the news there, Dave. And back with, let's see, we're going to talk, that hiring contract for the Premier Wakeham's advisor. And Bill's here to talk about St. Clair's after the news.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
And welcome back to the final hour for the week. Let's not waste any time. Go right to line number 5. And Bill, you're on the air.
Yes, hi, how's it going?
Good morning. Not bad, but for Friday.
Yeah, so like if we were back in St. Bon's 50 years ago, we'd be passing each other little Valentine's cards.
We were. Oh my God. Yeah, I mentioned that off the top. I'm glad you seized on that, Bill, because I don't know what it was, but a day like today, a Friday at St. Bon's would have been deadly. It'd be jeans, no cords, no ties, no shirts, hockey in the afternoon. I don't know why it struck me so much today, but it just feels like one of those Februarys back in grade 7 or 8 at the old Mullock Hall.
Yeah, the kids, like and even when my kids were in school, they used to send, to their friends and stuff. But that's what they'd be doing today.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about, I guess generally like healthcare.
Sure.
And like my good friend last year, he was a full year getting a diagnosis, and he finally, he was. I mean, he was in August, I think he went over to the emergency, and he was there for 12 hours, and he had to go home. And so I think a month later, he finally realized the only way he could be seen would be if he went in on an ambulance and refused to get on his feet, just stay down. And
that's what we've heard. We've seen it happen. Yeah.
You see, so like I know firsthand, and then he got his diagnosis, and he died probably 3 months later.
Do you mind if I ask the diagnosis, and not without identifying him?
Right, yeah, no, that's okay. I think it was last week. I think we were talking about St. Clair's and before, and the government would always say, it's a 100-year-old hospital. Right.
Yeah, about 120 actually. Yeah, it's getting there. I mean, if you count every part of it as it was built, like the nursing and that sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to pick up on. It was like the fact that, like it was kind of messaged that, like it was an old and decrepit kind of facility, and that's by saying, number one, by saying it's a 100-year-old institution, it's kind of like it's probably like a quarter truth. Or like a fifth truth. Because,
I hear what you're saying.
Because the first part of the hospital was opened in 1922, which is that white building, and that first opened in 22 when it was a 20-bed facility, and it was, I think they were started off as a maternity hospital, and then in 39 it expanded to 100. And then in 62 they had another piece put on St. Clair Avenue. That's right. And that was a 7-story. So, and then the final.
And then I was born
edition, there. Yeah, and the final edition was in 1972, and the part that's on Ricketts Road, that is the most modern part of St. Clair's, and I think that's where all the operating suites are and stuff. And so what they do with the older buildings, then is they put different services in there. They might put X-ray down there and different things, and they maintain the hospital, and it's a good facility, and it was, and I can't mention the St. Clair's without mentioning the Grace, because the Grace almost like their development was paralleled almost with St. Clair's, and they had a number of additions, and they started out in the 20s as a maternity hospital and stuff like that, and their latest part of the Grace was built in 1966, and so like I'd be over and sitting in my dad's kitchen, and we lived up on the Market Road, and we'd be there listening to him jackhammering the Grace down.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It'd break your heart.
Yep.
You know? Because, I'm getting my 60s now, but, like I was in a hospital at the Grace for a couple of weeks, and it's a beautiful hospital. But this whole idea, the messaging that comes out, in the PR campaign and everything, they say, it's an old place and all this kind of thing. There's a lot of people, and I'm one of them, that said I wish we had the Grace back, because in the early 80s, whenever I went to an emergency room, I never had to wait more than 2 or 3 or maybe 4 hours or something like that, and there was lots of capacity. And the hospitals like St. Clair's and the Grace and the General, they had their own nursing schools and nursing, and there didn't seem to be a problem back then. So have we really made any progress? When we got to go wait 12 hours now, and does the society really progress when it tears down a good hospital? And how does that get sold? And why do they do that? And I don't think it has improved, Brian.
It's hard to make the argument that it has, but in a sense of bricks and mortar and that sort of thing, that just hasn't kept up with the demand. And times have changed, in fairness. I mean, we can't really compare the 60s to the 2026s, only because of how technology has changed, how training has changed, how staffing has changed to the point, and then everything past COVID, all bets were off. People change careers. We're in a crisis here of the mental health has taken a whole other aspect to healthcare, taken that chunk of it. So I just, look, fair points, everything you said. But it's hard to compare those decades with today, and especially that mental health crisis. Yeah.
I just did the comparison, and I know what it was like back in '81, and I know what it's like now, 40 years later. And I don't think there's been an improvement. And like this whole consolidating, putting everything in, they're putting everything into the health science. They tacked on the mental health addition there, and they put, the Janeway was a good thing. The Janeway was all right now, but now in the last couple of years they were saying, oh, well, that's not good enough. Now we have to go. We're going to knock down St. Clair's and put a brand new place up on Camelot Road, and then we heard that the price tag on it was $10 billion. Look. There's advances in medicine and stuff like that, and buildings get old, yes, and that kind of thing. But I think most people who are my age and remember going to the people at the Salvation Army people that ran the Grace and the sisters that ran St. Clair's, and I'd say I was happy with the service back then, and I don't know why it was all taken away.
Look, it would be lovely to walk into St. Clair's like I did 25 years ago, a little gift shop. And even the entrance and all of that has changed around now. They just continually change and pivot depending on, first of all, who the government is, and second of all, where the health accord is going. The health accord itself lays out all of these issues. I don't
know whose benefit this is for. Is it for the people that are building these new places and doing all the renovations all the time, or is it really for the people?
Yep. There's always a bit of that on both sides of it. Absolutely. It's
right.
Who are we greasing?
They're talking about putting up and then they're saying, well, St. Clair's doesn't have a helipad. Well, I didn't need a helipad. And, and all the people in the area need, sure, that's important. It's a tertiary hospital, and the health science is a tertiary because it serves the people for the province in a lot of different areas, and that's important. Yes, I can see that, I'm not taking away from it, but, we had 2 great hospitals on the Market Road, and now we got one, and it's 12 hours in the waiting room to see somebody.
Yep, and like any hospital in this province, and more in the rural areas. Bill, look, right at the break, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Don't be a stranger. Don't know when I'll be back next, but if I do, I hope I hear from you.
Okay, love and kisses.
Appreciate it. Oh, yeah, happy Valentine's. Right back at you. Big hug, buddy.
Okay, bye.
Take care. All right, off to the break. Dave, let's do it. And welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3. And Otto, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning.
Morning, sir.
In the last couple of days, we got some interesting information for a request from VOCM for information about the Premier's new advisor. The Premier seems had to take a surgeon, a very top surgeon, out of his operating room and give him a government job and over $250,000.
Kind of like what the Liberals did. Took a surgeon out of the emergency room and made him Premier, only he was Premier and he wasn't just an advisor.
I realize that, and just because I might go and serve a sentence for a crime doesn't mean I get passed to go do it again.
That's
and again.
right.
But more interesting that it was the Premier's response was that, in effect, the government has lots of advisors. Now, what I'd like to know
how many?
Who are these lots of advisors?
Yeah.
Are they also being taken out of jobs to put in the Premier's office or elsewhere? How much are they paid? How many hours do they work? And can we afford it? And there's a whole lot of other questions to this one that perhaps VOCM could dig a little deeper into this.
Well, we've been trying. You know, we've made requests, of course, for the Premier here on the show and elsewhere. He wasn't available on this, but his Director of Communications, Brad Power, new Director of Communications, Bradley Power, said Whalen's hiring is a, quote, sign of the Premier's commitment to improving healthcare. And I mean, they talk about an aggressive agenda, and they confirm that his political salary will be paid by MCP with a special fund set aside, for doctors who perform, administrative stuff while they're actually with government. He said there's a couple of doctors performing such roles in the Department of Health, though they insist on not partisan appointments, although we all know that that Des Whalen did have connections and ties to the provincial government. Interestingly for me as well, Otto, is that this is 4 times the salary of the Premier. Like the Premier's base salary, the salary just for being Premier is $65,000.
Exactly. Well, actually, the Premier could hire me for lots of expertise on many of these topics for a hell of a lot less than that.
Yeah.
But that's just to be a little humorous. But nevertheless, I'm quite certain that if the Premier wants information and advice on the problems with the medical system, he can certainly get lots of people who are willing to advise him at much lower rate of pay. And perhaps what is this guy doing for a whole year in terms of an advisor? It's not necessary. But in addition to that, what we get reports from doctors, many doctors about, is that they spend so much time doing paperwork, they can't get to see their patients or treat them properly.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's. I'm telling you, that's expensive advice, if you ask me. It's a full salary, almost $300,000. I'm sure, and I would just say this, and I have no skin in the game or anything like that. If you've been listening, I try to be as objective as possible. That's my background as a journalist. But when you look at the job itself and the price and everything that comes with it, you just have to wonder. Like you got Dr. Pat Parfrey was right there, and he had all the information, the current status of every aspect, every nuance of the healthcare system, and arguably politically he was turfed, gone. And now we have a new advisor for $300,000, as well as several other advisors in the Premier's office. Again, I'm willing to listen and wait and see if it can be justified. It's early days when these stories break. You always have more, dominoes to fall or more pins to fall as it goes on and more information comes out. Unfortunately, it's just a statement really for now, and I'd love for them to more address it in layman's terms instead of just issuing these bland black and white statements that don't really address the criticism that's being levied.
Well, I think there's also a bigger question here. Have we just put in power a Premier and a government, right-wing for sure, all right, who are going to follow in Trump's footsteps and give all their buddies big fat jobs, lay off lots of people, and steal as much as they can while they're at it?
Look, the tentacles or the fingerprints of the Federal Conservative Party, I'm going to say it, are all over this government. They were beforehand, and you need to look any further than Mr. Outhouse, who is the campaign manager for Pierre Poilievre, and arguably in the world, they'll say the orchestrator of the success that the government had here in surprisingly winning the government. Still think a lot of them weren't prepared for it, didn't see it coming, and they're still just trying to catch up with the shock of it all. But in any event, there's no question that it feels like a lot of the messaging is coming from up along. It does feel that way. Again, I welcome anyone within government who can deny outright that a lot of the direction isn't coming from the Federal Conservative Party. And speaking of Trump, I mean, look, you just mentioned against my better judgment, I get into that. I don't necessarily use it right off the top. We can talk Trump all you want, the Trump front, I call it. He's now rolling back greenhouse gases, but also pulling out all the ICE agents out of Minnesota. Some calling that a retreat. They just say, no, we did great work there, and we're just moving on, despite 2 fatal shootings of legal U.S. citizens. And then when you look yesterday, oh my God, man, it's so hard to listen to it and face reality. RFK. Speaking of health, RFK, the Secretary of Health, the man running the U.S., arguably at the head of the U.S. Health system, says yesterday in an interview, or this week in an interview, says he wasn't scared of COVID because, quote, get this, these are his exact words, I used to snort cocaine off toilet bowl seats. So, I can survive that. I can survive anything. Yikes.
Yes, I read that and I laughed my head off.
Are you kidding me? This is the secretary.
The trouble is, I had a pretty low opinion of Americans before, but it's gone right down to tubes. The only hope they have now, because I'm afraid they're going to lose their country and the republic, is that they take over enough of the government in October to...
in the primaries, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, I didn't want to get into that topic. I'm more concerned about what goes on here in Newfoundland.
Sure.
And right now, if we have put in that kind of government and that kind of leader, then I am quite happy that VOCM is one of the few open line programs left operating in the country, perhaps in the world. And I'm sure you'll keep on their butts to keep them as honest as possible, and I'd really appreciate that. Well, I'm not a first-time caller. This might be only my second or third after many, many years. But I thought this was an opportune time to try to head something off before it gets out of control.
I couldn't agree more. And Otto, please, don't be a stranger. Your kind of call. Look, this is what makes the show. You say you just mentioned, one of the few shows still operating, and, as a good, wholesome talk show, just throw it all out there at the wall and let people have their say. It's because of callers like you, even though it's only your first or second call. Don't make it that. Don't leave it at that. Go for the record.
Well, my problem is that I'm well on in years, and I don't have a lot of time left. And sitting on a phone waiting to get my turn on open line is not my most enjoyable.
Okay, well then I'm going to make sure you're fast tracked the next time. In that case,
I wanted to. When I call, it's going to be a really important issue, and I consider this as one.
Yep, and I don't disagree. Thanks, really appreciate it, Otto. Like I said, if whenever you have the time, the lines are yours.
Well, thank you very much, and happy Valentine's Day to you.
Right back at you. Thanks a lot. Thanks. All right. Only a couple of minutes there before the break. I just wanted to mention yesterday, I don't know where to go with this. I got a couple of notes here that ask me why I didn't speak about that and that. I'll just mention one. Speaking of ironies, the Time magazine, of course, has apparently ranked MUN among the world's top 300 universities. Just in under the wire, I think around 297, and the second ranked in Atlantic Canada, if you will, and that's from their list of 2026 top universities. Globally, 17th in Canada is the rank. And according to MUN, Time partnered with some kind of global data firm to analyze the data for this. Some looking at over 2,500 institutions worldwide with a focus on the 3 pillars of excellence. And we're not talking the ones that Tony Wakeham has mentioned. Actually, 3 pillars just dedicated to higher education. And I noticed there where President Janet Morrison said the rankings are proof that MUN is on the right track. Okay. I'd like a closer look at the data personally, and I will take a closer look at it that was used to rank it. But maybe more like we're getting on the right track in the face of everything that's just happened. I'm not sure when the time period either, when all this data was taken, so take that for what it's worth. But given the current financial state of MUN and the refocus on the infrastructure, not the least of which, of course, that crumbling infrastructure. It was kind of surprising to see that right now in the face of what's going on at MUN, but hey, any good news is good news. And some other issues we can get into. I've got a couple of calls left, and we're going to go into the home stretch after the break coming up. And right after this break, we'll talk to Bob about the MOU. Which MOU? We'll find out right after the break.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Into the home stretch for sure now for the week. Let's go right to line number 5. And Bob, you're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Brian.
Good morning, sir. Long time no talk.
Yeah. Brian, that MOU between Newfoundland and Quebec, seems like the way the world is changing now, that seems to be totally outdated. I mean, you got rare earth minerals in Labrador, and it requires electricity to develop. And you got people, countries all over in the world ready to
pivot, maybe?
What?
To pivot, maybe, and change their direction?
Yeah, countries all over the world ready to invest in Canada, to bypass Quebec or to bypass U.S. And it seems like for us to get out from under Quebec shouldn't be a problem now.
Well,
so, I mean, we don't have to be obliged to take a deal from Quebec at all. And that Gull Island is totally priceless now. Right?
And becomes arguably more priceless every day.
Yeah. So that's why I say the MOU is so outdated. I mean, I see John Ridgely offered to go partners with Ottawa to develop the electricity in Canada. I mean, Newfoundland seems to be an afterthought all the time. Don't we have rare earth minerals in Labrador also?
We have them all over the province. Specifically, obviously, Labrador is mine-rich, just we know that. If you listen to any of the comments from the players at the MineX conference in Labrador this week, they talk about the potential. Like we don't hear about all of the discoveries and all of the different pockets of resources that are up there, but it's everything everyone's looking for. And the question is, of course, coordination with the Major Projects Office in Ottawa. The MOU is just right there as a shadow over everything for the power that's needed to get at any of that real stuff. We talk about the third transmission line, but and the cyclical nature of the iron ore business up in Lab City. I mean, you can go 3 years, it's boom and bust. But you have to have that constant, the consistent, guaranteed or at least secured power. And they all know that that's the way to it. The question is, and it'll continue for a day, is whether or not we can get the best deal out of it. And I hear what you're saying about, being a little outdated. I mean, it was only last year it was signed. And but we know that things are evolving as we go. I mean, the whole tact and track of the federal government is going EV, is going electric. You can see it. Just in the sense of to stay away from and try to avoid having to deal with the U.S., as you pointed out. Because that's not the way they want to go. Trump wants to drill, baby, drill, and that's just fine. The investments that they are putting in EVs, and I can hear everybody now talking about, charging, that's all great, charges. They're going to be smaller cars. They're going to be more affordable. There are going to be more charging stations. Whether or not it can keep up with the goals and the new targets, which there's no longer a mandate for EVs, but there is 75% of that target they still want to get to. So it's changing quickly, Bob. I hear what you're saying as far as outdated. But the need is still there, and we need to strike while the iron is hot. And a lot of our people are concerned that we may let an opportunity go by the wayside. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I wish I could express myself as well as you. I'm getting older now, and I see it getting harder all the time.
It's all baffle-gab for me.
These are the thoughts I have, and they drive me crazy. I see you had an MHA on recently. I guess he was a Liberal MHA, and he was still pushing that MOU, And it seems like they'd be willing now even to sign that deal right away without even, every contract in the world got to go before the Public Utilities Board before it's signed. That's just a matter of fact,
Well, a review of some sort. I mean, we know that they haven't always gone before the pub, and that's got us in trouble with muskrat and other plans in the past, and that's a longer story. But, Bob, you mentioned that. I mean, look, the Liberals will continue to stand by the deal that the MOU that they put together with François Legault in Quebec last year. Certainly, no one would believe, especially as far as that's concerned, that that's out of date. However, we have heard that Premier Wakeham may want to tweak some things if they feel that it's not good enough and we need it better and need a better deal. But then again, we already know that the government in waiting in Quebec is going to make it a lot more difficult to get there. They don't like the deal either. They call it completely unfair and unbalanced. So thinking that we're going to get a better deal than what's already there, and I don't know. I've seen parts of it, but I haven't read the whole MOU. All I know is that it was negotiated in good faith between the two provinces. They were satisfied that that might serve everybody's purposes well. Whether or not one side gets a bit of a better deal or a lot better deal out of one or the other, it's still all speculation. Nobody really knows. The uncertainty is ruling the day here.
Yeah, I mean, where do John Ridgely get off suggesting that he make a deal with Ottawa to develop electricity? I mean, that means that what are they called, these big windmills? Yeah.
Yeah, the wind farms on, so far proposals on
turbines.
Land here, yeah.
Turbines is the word I'm looking for.
I know, I have that problem too.
Yeah, I got a short memory problem lately.
It's constant for me, Bob.
Yeah, but the scandalous the way the Liberals are getting on, and imagine the way the future unfolds. There's only one seat that kept us from, that got us at Tony Wakeham, and kept us from getting the Liberals and signing it right away. I mean, there's something wrong there, something going on with the Liberals. Maybe they had it so broke that they needed money really quick. I mean, you can't sell out Newfoundland to solve our money problems now.
Well, that's a fact, though. You're absolutely right that the suggestion has been, and the look has been, that signing that MOU, getting it done by the April 1 deadline, there is close to $500 million there ready to kick in immediately with the signing of the deal. And those are. It's a tangly calculation, but there is upfront hundreds of millions of dollars that can go directly into our coffers. And you have no doubt, I have no doubt, that the Liberals were certainly looking at that. They were going to sell the farm just to get at a few $100 million. I believe that they believe that this is the best deal they could have got. I believe that because they're still touting it, and Wakeham is fair to sign it if he wants to, but they're going to continue this review. We don't know the status of any negotiations that may or may not be continuing on. So there's just so much unknown, Bob. Like, it's wild times. More transparency, more communication, and I'd love to know what the question's going to be if we're ever going to put it to a referendum.
Mark Carney wants to go do everything in Canada now and to be clear of the U.S. And all this power, that power electricity keeps getting more valuable every day. So any day you can get investors all over the world, even in the Middle East, to come and invest money to develop that and give us. There's no doubt they give us a double deal to anything that Quebec can handle.
Well, that would certainly require a wholesome change to the way we're looking at it, to bring in investors from outside the province to. Is that really worth the trouble and the uncertainty as well? And then the time that would take to maybe they're already thinking about just completely going back to square one and scratch with the with Quebec. I don't know. Look, trying to get a better deal, it's all relative, right? Anyway, Bob, we're almost up to the break. Last one in the morning. I'll give you a minute to wrap up with your thoughts. I appreciate you calling in too.
Yeah, it says oil apparently oil is not the future anymore. That all the investors now are realizing that, and oil is not the future, and electricity, or what is the future, is rare earth minerals, and it takes electricity to develop those rare earth minerals. So, I mean, we're standing good. Why do we have to deal with Quebec at all? Why don't we just call it off and look around? I mean, Mark Carney is trying to decide between Germany and South Korea about a deal on submarines. I mean, why do we have to be obligated to Quebec? Especially the way they, we said, especially the 70-year contract we have where we got nothing.
Well, the problem...
That's not a good taste in your mouth, is it?
No, it's not, and it never has been. But look, we got to get past it. We do. Look what happened. The reason it hasn't been developed, the reason there's been no movement is because we've always avoided dealing with Quebec. We've never gotten over 69. And so, I mean, I think we need to get over it. I think it was a good effort. Collaboration is important. We know what happened. Muskrat was all designed to avoid Quebec, and look where we got with that. And I say that in the context of, the grid's been good this year. And the transmission...
There's more opportunities now to get a better deal.
Sure.
Don't they have everyone else looks for the better deal? Why do we feel obliged to go with Quebec?
Well,
I think it's that upfront money is a real hustle.
Well, it's a relative thing.
Don't buy now, you'll be gone tomorrow, kind of thing. Right?
Yeah, and you mentioned oil. It is maybe not decades down the road future. Actually, maybe it is still a couple of more decades. It is still necessary. It's still needed. We've touted the cleanest kind of carbon-free, but the cleanest kind of oil around the world. We say we have that. And look, Beta Nord. The big call is coming in a little while. That oil, those reserves are still very much important to the world, to the economy, to our economy, and needed. I mean, look, we're not transitioning overnight. There's still a great need for it. We need to develop those resources
one of the biggest
hand in hand.
in the world, and it's out in the ocean. Why can't they just put it in boats and bring it out wherever it got to go?
Well, that's what they're doing. They got the tiebacks. There's not a gravity base. It's a Sea Rose. It's like a Sea Rose. It's going to be an FPSO if it's approved. They're at the decision gate 2 part, but it's all about putting it on ships and shipping it around the world and tying back for all these different Cambrian and all these other explorations, all these other sites out there, tying it all back and shipping it around the world as long as we can, and as long as there's a need for it, we should develop it, because if we don't, someone else will.
And there's a port going to be built in Nova Scotia, apparently, so it's really exciting times. I think we got to think out of the box now, and we need bright people, someone like Danny Williams, to take advantage of whatever is available. Not feel, you don't have to be stuck on that Quebec deal anyway, right?
Sure. Listen, Bob, I appreciate the call. Have yourself a great weekend. I wish you a happy Valentine's.
Okay. Thank you.
That's okay. You don't have to wish it to me back. I won't be hurt. Bob, take care of yourself, okay? Have a great weekend.
Okay, bye.
All right, thanks. All right, Dave, let's take our last break of the week. Back with Ed and the price of diesel right after the break. Ooh, and I may have missed this earlier. A little bit busy here on the show this morning, and I hope I'm not too late with the this accident that was near the first Galway roundabout as you head on to Pitts Memorial, the ramp there. So the first Galway roundabout, it's probably, I don't know if it's cleaned up yet. I apologize. Try to be in real time here, but it's been a little bit tangly and busy on the show today. But we got about 8 minutes left, and I got at least one caller, and the first one is Ed. You're on here.
This morning.
Morning. Not bad, bye. We're almost into the weekend, so fire away.
Well, yesterday I got fuel. The day before I got fuel. The day before that I got fuel. For some reason, I don't understand, but, I mean, yeah, you have price in the van, but you have a difference between the price of gasoline and the price of diesel fuel by like almost 53 cents a liter difference. I mean, that's a lot, considering it comes on the same truck to the same location. Like, it's getting outrageous. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, diesel has spiked really big in the last couple of weeks, and gas is just tinily been, but it's been diesel. That's where the real getting hit hard this week and last week.
Yeah, but probably most people don't own it. Most people don't realize this. But see, anything you get at a store, any goods, products, and all this is coming on a truck. And 9 chances out of 10, probably 99% of the chance, that truck runs on diesel fuel. The containers that come across the tickle and that boat is run on diesel fuel, right? So if our price of diesel fuel is going up more and more and more, that means the price of goods and everything is going to go up again more and more and more.
Absolutely.
So I don't know who's regulating the prices of diesel fuel. It could be price and demand, but realistically, if you have the price of diesel fuel dirt cheap, then guess what? Products will start dropping in price, and you'll be able to get stuff cheaper because the cost of the goods going from point A to point B will cost less.
It's a great point. You're right. People don't necessarily think about the supply chain and how that can affect it. You only think about, I got to go to the pumps and gas up. If you don't normally rely on diesel, you don't really think of it until you put it into perspective you just did.
Yeah, because, I mean, you can go over, say, to the Middle East countries. I mean, you can literally, and this is not a word lot, you can get 120 liters of fuel delivered to your vehicle, 120 liters for less than $3. Less than $3. 120 liters for less than $3.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That's 1,000% less than what we pay here.
And that could have quite the impact, to say the least.
Well, our fuel that we get, it comes from Saudi Arabia. It is shipped over to New Brunswick, refined there, and then shipped over to us. So, I mean, if they're getting the price of fuel over there dirt cheap, bringing it into Canada, refining it, and then shipping it over here, I'm sure it don't cost that much by any particular means to have it here. And then we had to be suffered the price of, $2, almost pretty close to $2 a liter, where they can get it over there literally for less than 2 cents a liter, delivered to their vehicle, So there's something seriously wrong with this scenario. I mean, we have oil and gas off our coast. We don't get none of that.
I know.
We have a refinery, and we get none of that.
You just took the words out of my mouth, Ed. For years and on end, it's a frustration that people have watched us take it all out of right next door in our own waters and not be able to avail of it ourselves.
No, we should have an unlimited supply of fuel at any particular time at a very low cost. And if low cost when it comes to fuel cost, everything else goes lower in cost. Everything.
Maybe we can get the stuff that North Atlantic just is now going to start refining out of their newly purchased refinery in France. Maybe that'll be ironically the stuff that we use. They can refine it over there and send it back to us.
Possibly, it isn't possibly, but technically, if we have it here off our coast, we should be refining it here and having our own oil and gas. The same thing with electricity. We have Churchill Falls and all that. I don't know why we're dealing with Quebec. Quebec is a waste of time. It's better, you know what? Overall, it's better to deal with the Chinese, who has done more electrical power generation stations over there than anybody else in the world. We can have our Churchill Falls system alone, let alone everything else, upgraded to probably quadruple the amount of power with brand new equipment over there, and they'll bring in some of the workers and the machinery and all equipment and have it completely revamped and have probably 4 times more electricity coming out than we ever did before at a much cheaper rate and on time and on budget. Because if we're thinking to go electric in any particular way, we don't have the infrastructure here for it. People say, I want an electric vehicle. Most houses in Newfoundland don't have a 200-amp service in their house. It's like a 100-amp service, 125-amp service.
And you know what's even a bigger issue than that? And people are talking about the charging and the infrastructure and the availability and the range for vehicles. An even bigger issue than that is the inability for people living in condominiums and apartment buildings. If you think you're talking about houses, that's one thing. There are more people per capita living in a high-rise who, could take up 4 or 5 different city blocks if they all lived in individual houses. But making sure these condominiums and apartment buildings have the infrastructure, that's where we need to be looking. That's the most people in a confined area when you look at density. That's what they really need to focus on. That's going to be a huge issue. It's one thing to have little charging stations here and there or at your house, and the investment. I got a guy across the street from me, charges his car all the time. But if you live in an apartment building, where are you charging? So that's another issue. Ed, I got about 2 minutes left. I'll give you about a minute to wrap up, and then I'll need a minute to wrap up myself. Sorry about the short time.
No problem. And anything when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to electrical anyway, has to be transported 9 times out of 10 by a diesel powered machine to get the stuff from point A to point B, including lifts and everything else, equipment, backhoes, loaders, everything. All of it's on diesel fuel.
Yep.
Right?
No argument there.
So, like I say, until we get our stuff together and we actually start getting stuff lower when it comes to cost, nothing in price is going to go down. Nothing's going to change, and it's going to take a very, very long time. I'd like to see its high-speed train in Newfoundland. I'd love to. And guess who got them? Chinese.
There was talk.
Better.
There was talk on the company that was looking at that. That might be something worth exploring. You know, I can't even remember all the details of it, but there was suggestion of an infrastructure and a quick rail. Oh, gosh. I'm sorry. It's been a long week and I won't get it. But I know there was a proposal for that. Local engineers were behind it. I just can't remember it all off the top of my head. But great suggestion.
Or even a trolley train downtown is electric in some particular way, right?
Yep. I think we're getting there.
That'd be fantastic.
Yep.
Eventually, sooner or later. But even if the buses go electric, they still, because the Chinese can replace the batteries on the move. Mm-hmm. They have that technology. They've had that for decades, almost 10 years.
Got to get going.
So anyway, hopefully something's going to change soon if people start getting price deals down. Have a good day.
You too, Ed. Thanks for the call. Really appreciate it. All right, everyone. That does it for this week. Whew. That was a week, Dave. All I'll say is happy Valentine's, everybody. Squeeze your lover and drive safely. Arrive Alive, VOCM cares.